In this video, I am going to find f of square root of x minus 3 given that f of x is equal to square root of 7x plus 4. Just by looking at all this square root, it may look like a bit intimidating. However, this problem is rather quite easy. So if you look at this function as an input and output, you will get an easier view of things. So let's look at the function, given function, and just analyze it a little bit. The function is taking an input. So think of function as a black box. It takes an input and it gives you an output. So if you give it an input x as it is here, what does it do to the input? It takes the input, multiplies it by 7, then adds 4 to it, and then takes the square root of the whole thing. So it's going to take this input x, multiply it by 7 to get 7x, and add 4 to it, and then take the square root of the whole thing. Now what if this input instead becomes square root of x minus 3? What if this input is square root of x minus 3? The function is going to do exactly the same thing. Think of it as a blind thing. It's going to do blindly the same thing again and again repetitively. So what it is going to do is going to take the input, multiply it by 7. So input is square root of x minus 3 multiplied by 7, and then to that result is going to add 4. Like the way it took the input x, multiplied it by 7, and to that result it added 4 and then took the square root of the whole thing. So it takes the input, this input, multiplies it by 7, adds 4 to it, and takes the square root of the whole thing. So that's exactly what it is. F of square root of x minus 3 is going to be square root of x minus 3. You take this input, so remember this is the input, this is the input, this is the input, and multiply it by 7, add 4 to it, that's like adding this 4 to it, and then take the square root of the whole thing. In this case you cannot really simplify it any further, so that's your answer. So once again, think of function as an input and output. You give it an input, it gives you only one output, and doesn't matter whatever the input is, the function is gonna behave exactly the same way. Whatever it does to x is gonna do the same thing to whatever else you give it as an input. So I hope that this discussion was helpful. Thank you very much.